So UFC 301 just went down last night, and honestly, my review on this card is it really wasn't as bad as we all anticipated it to be. Because let's be real, we were spoiled. We ate good with UFC 298, 299, UFC 300, the most stacked of them all, but three stacked pay per views back to back. And then 301, it's kind of like the UFC didn't really try. There's really not much appeal to this pay per view other than like maybe Aldo returning against Jonathan Martinez. I wasn't very excited for Anthony Smith. Not really anyone was. Pantoja versus Urseg doesn't really have pay per view headline or appeal to it, but the fights were pretty good. And sometimes cards are like that. Sometimes some cards are sleepers like that, where they may not look good on paper, not Anthony Smith, but they may not look good on paper, but they turn out to actually be really good when they play out. And some cards, they look stacked and they're kind of boring. I didn't really watch the prelims other than the Carolina fight, so I don't really know much about the prelims, how good they were. But you got the first fight of the main card. Kyle Barao knocks out Paul Craig. I actually missed that fight, by the way, because I was busy doing other things and because the card didn't seem that appealing. I didn't really care to tune in right away, so I actually didn't catch this fight. I just caught the highlights, heard about it on the gram. Michel Pereira subs that overrated guy, or he's not overrated, but we know he's not good. He's just known for beating Shogun. He subbed Ihor Paterio, which I actually predicted he'd win by first round submission. He gets the first round sub. Smith is back in the win column. So like the first three fights of this main card were like finishes. So if there's a bunch of finishes on a main card, that's already a plus for me. That's already a bonus. That's like entertainment. That's like entertainment at its finest, right? It's good to see Anthony Smith, Mister on paper, get back in the win column because I thought he would lose. I didn't have faith in him, but luckily, the Lionheart himself pulled through, and looks like he's gonna get in a grappling match with Alex Pereira because he just challenged him to that. But he ain't getting a title shot at Pereira. Definitely not. And then, of course, the co-main, Jose Aldo, is back. And he absolutely dominated Jonathan Martinez. Like I knew he would. I predicted Aldo would win this fight pretty comfortably just because even though Aldo's old and hasn't been in action for a while, Aldo is still Aldo. Aldo is still explosive. He still has it. I just knew he did. And Jonathan Martinez just wasn't going to be the guy to spoil Jose's comeback fight because, look, Jonathan Martinez he's younger, but he's a leg kick merchant. I said going in, he has literally no threat with his hands, no power, no boxing. His only finishes are like leg kick TKOs and like flying knees and head kicks, but I'm like, he's not out leg kicking the leg kick king Jose Aldo. He's not knocking him out the head kick. He's not knocking him out the flying knee. He's just not catching Aldo or finishing him with kicks. To really threaten a guy like Aldo, you gotta have good hands, like Peter Yan, like Max Holloway, or you gotta be really well rounded, and you gotta threaten him with wrestling and striking, and you gotta have good volume and pressure, like Volk did. Even like Max, like a lot of guys who did beat Aldo, or guys who could pressure and melt him, or snipers like Conor McGregor. Jonathan Martinez is none of that. So I'm like, yeah, he's not on the level of the guys who have been able to give Aldo trouble. There are guys in the division who I think could still beat Aldo, who Aldo may lose to, but I just knew it wouldn't be to Jonathan Martinez. This is like an obvious pick. Aldo should not have been the underdog. And my thoughts on what's next for Aldo, I think he should take on, I was thinking Dominic Cruz because it's a legend versus legend matchup, but Cruz declined it. I don't know if there's any point in that matchup now. Aldo would knock Cruz out at this point. I'd say the fight to make is Henry Cejudo and Aldo because that they were supposed to fight 4 years ago. There's unfinished business there. And Henry Cejudo right now is looking more beatable than he was before retirement. So it's like, if there's a time now where Aldo could beat Cejudo, it's in 2024. I always low-key thought Aldo could beat Henry. I just never thought he would when they were supposed to fight the first time. But now, Aldo could probably beat him because I think right now at this point he's looking better than Cejudo's been looking lately. So, and he did better against Merab than Henry. So Aldo might win that. But regardless of the outcome, I just say book that fight for UFC 306 in the Sphere. It's a good fight for both guys, both men. And whoever wins that could be closer than ever to title contention in the bantamweight division. But what a comeback for Aldo. He went out there, dominated, just put the pressure on Jonathan Martinez, got in his face, had him on the back foot the whole time. Martinez's leg kicks weren't working. When he tried to pressure, he just got lit up, pieced up by a bunch of fast, powerful combos. And overall, he just got boxed up. Aldo's boxing was too good, and the kicks of Jonathan were just too ineffective, and he's got pillow fists, and he's got no threats with volume or takedowns whatsoever. So Aldo did what he needed to do. I predicted Aldo by second round knockout. I thought he was close to it, but it ended up being a decision. He could have finished him in the third when he had him doing the chicken dance, but he chose to take him down, ride out the round on top instead. But yeah, way to go, Aldo. And he was rocking the crown too. I love how he came out walking out with that crown. And even when he won, he had that crown on his head. And then the main event, Pantoja versus Usyk. I'm going to open up the full thing here. All right. This was a great fight, first and foremost. Very entertaining. I mean, Usyk went out there, put up a good effort, put up a good fight when no one expected anything from Steve Usyk. He was ranked number 10. He wasn't supposed to be here. And now a lot of people thought Usyk beat Pantoja. A lot of people thought Pantoja he robbed Steve Usyk. I mean, I don't think so personally. I scored it for Pantoja. If they would have given it to Steve, I could see why. I thought it was going to end in a split decision based off how the fight was going, but I thought it was the correct decision. But very entertaining from start to finish. Pantoja just comes storming out right out the gate at the opening bell with his wild hooks like I knew he would. Won the first round with his pressure, with his brawling and takedowns, and did damage in round 1. Round 2, I'd say was Usyk's round. Round 3, I know Steve Usyk cut Pantoja with the elbow, caught him coming in with the left hook, but Pantoja wasn't rocked. He was winning the round in the third. In the stats-wise, numbers-wise, he was winning round 3 against Steve Usyk till the end, and he ended on top with the takedown. I think he even got his back as well, so I give Pantoja round 3. Round 4, Usyk outstruck him. Round 5, Usyk threw it away by going for the takedown, getting out scrambled, ending up on bottom, losing himself the fight. Yes, control time matters. Yes, takedowns matter. I don't care what the scoring criteria says. This is DJ C's opinion. Okay, I mean, the scoring does matter, the criteria. I do like to go off damage and stuff, but you can't just win a fight based off cutting somebody. Yeah, you cut them, but what else are you doing in the moments or the time being of when you got a cut? Now, yes, you could say, oh, Usyk was piecing him up and countering him, but Pantoja was landing too. Pantoja was walking him down. His shots were not missing. A lot of his shots were connecting on Steve. And he outlanded him. Look, where my mouse is pointing. More total strikes, more significant strikes, and a lot of control time, and he got 9 takedowns. Out of 19 attempts, Usyk only got 1 takedown. So based off the stats here, it looks to me like Alexandre Pantoja is the winner. There was no robbery. Yes, damage over control, but Pantoja also did damage in round 1. Pantoja applied a lot of pressure. Pantoja was landing a lot of big shots too, not just Steve Usyk. I think people who call it a robbery are just people who have the underdog bias for Steve Usyk. A lot of people picked Steve because they liked the idea. They were in love with the idea of like Usyk, coming out of nowhere, pulling this comical upset. This guy who looks like the dude from The Office. I forgot the actor's name, but you know who I'm talking about. Just comes out of nowhere and just beats Pantoja and becomes champ. A lot of people want it to happen. Bedtime MMA predicted him to win for whatever bizarre reason. MMA Guru predicted him to win and was salty. The Weasel, for whatever bizarre reason, who's a very good analyst, picked Usyk to win when Pantoja was the obvious pick. The only other MMA YouTuber I know other than myself who picked Pantoja was Lucas Tracy. Shout out to Lucas Tracy, undefeated in main events this year. My title fight streak this year. So I started the year 3 wrong title fights. But now I've got 4 straight title fights in a row, from O'Malley, Whaley, Pereira. Unfortunately, I wish Hill won that. But feels good to be right nonetheless. And Pantoja shows how solid my picks are. And these last few pay-per-views as well, like, I've gone 4-1 on the main card since UFC 298. I got every fight right in 298 until Volk got slept. I got every fight right on the main card of 299, but I didn't have faith in Jan. He won. I got every fight right on the main card of UFC 300, but I didn't have faith in Max. He won. I got 4 fights right on the main card of 301. I didn't have faith in Smith. He won. I could easily be 5-0 had I trusted Max, had I trusted Peter Yan, had I trusted Ilya to beat Volk, and had I trusted Anthony Smith, but I'm doing great on these pay-per-view main cards, and I'm catching up on title fights. So we'll see what happens June 1st with Islam and Dustin. I'm a little bit nervous because I'm picking Islam, but I'm kind of afraid that Dustin might pull the upset somehow. Although I'm a fan of Dustin, I want to keep my streak alive. And also, yeah, I'm going to pick Leon to beat Bilal again, and I'm going to pick Aspinall once again to beat Curtis if that rematch is booked. Hopefully Aspinall can beat the John Jones curse. That curse is anyone who talks about being the one to beat John Jones, they lose their next fight, and in devastating fashion. That could be Tom. I hope not. But yeah, once again, this card was good. The main event was entertaining. I enjoyed it. Even if Pantoja didn't get the decision, I'm happy with how the fight turned out. It was fun. I'm glad, like, Urseg didn't get smoked. He gave a good showing. And look, Steve Urseg will be back. He'll be back. He's young, 28. This should be a confidence builder for Steve Urseg. He called out Brandon Moreno. I think they should give him Brandon Moreno, honestly, if anything, or whoever else is in the flyweight ranking. Someone in the top 10. Maybe Muhammad Makayev. Maybe they can make that fight. I don't know. I don't know who they give him, but just give him someone somewhere in the top 10, top 5. I think he deserves to be rewarded for this performance against Alexandre Pantoja. And then as for Pantoja, I heard rumors that Cape and Kaikar France, they might fight at UFC 305. Although they won't fight because they always pull out of fights. Their fights are always canceled, so... But if that fight could go through, I'd say Pantoja should fight the winner of that. Maybe just fight Muhammad Makayev or Amir Albazi when he comes back, most likely. But yeah, I mean, I remember saying, like, Pantoja is beatable. He's the best flyweight in the world, but he's very beatable. He can be beaten, but I said Steve is not going to be the one to do it because Steve Urseg is unproven. There's too much unknowns about him. He's 3-0 in the UFC against bums. And I said he has a bit more work to do before I could trust him to become a world champ. Like, had Steve Urseg had more UFC experience, more experience in the top 10, top 5, I might have considered picking him to win. But yeah, I didn't see it. He could rebound and maybe win a rematch down the line because Pantoja ain't getting any younger. But if anyone's beating Pantoja, it's likely going to be Manal Cop in a rematch. I keep saying this. If he can get his together and stop having fights canceled, I think he might be the one to beat Pantoja or Kaikar France. But that's a topic for another video. But nonetheless, great card. I'm glad this card turned out to be fun and entertaining despite not having good appeal in terms of name value, and I'm very excited for UFC 301, or no, 302, kind of. The main card of that really ain't all that, other than the co-main, the main event with Strickland, Costa, and Makhachev, Poirier, but I can't wait for the Max return. That I'm hyped for, and of course UFC London on July 27th, but yeah, like and subscribe, and peace out.